Kesh knew he was slightly better prepared. He was mentally and physically in a better space. And I was never going to come here. But after speaking to him, I realized Gukesh is going into game 13 and 14. They're massive games, but he's going in with a great attitude. He's got good energy. He's fresh, and Ding is holding on.
So first thing, Paddy, congratulations on, delivering another, world title. And it's kind of very nice that Indians are demanding honorary citizenship for you for the amount of contribution you have made in terms of medals and titles. So I will start with that. Your relationship with India, how do you describe that?
Yeah, the relationship started in 2008 when Gary Kirsten, invited me to come and work with the cricketers. And since then, it's really just grown. India's become my second home. I feel very grateful that I've been invited to the Indian Cricket Party and then invited to IPL and earlier this year, to spend some time with the hockey team. So I just feel real gratitude to be invited to what is somebody else's party. And I just feel like an invited guest, and I feel very, very welcome, more and more welcome, and welcome with open arms.
Right. And now coming to 2024, you had two very interesting assignments in India. First, the Indian hockey team. I think your very good friend Craig has mentioned multiple times about, when you came on board. And then after Gukesh happened. So I would start with Gukesh because it's the recent one. Talk us a bit about, when or who approached you and what was the conversation when it started.
Yeah, so I was initially approached by Viren Raskinath of Olympic Gold Quest, and I'd done some work with some of his athletes before, and he asked would I be interested in, connecting with Sandeep Singhal of Westridge Capital, who's Gukesh's sponsor. And I was initially a bit hesitant. Chess player, I'd never worked in chess. At a 17-year-old, I tend not to work with younger people because they don't really have the great capacity generally for self-reflection, which is required for mental coaching. But I said, yes, I'm open to it. Let me at least have a conversation with this young man who you speak so highly of. And very shortly into the first conversation, I realized this is not a 17-year-old. This is a very special human being. And it's just the relationship and the conversation with Gukesh has just grown, over the last 6 months.
Right. And so when you talk about, so you said that you haven't worked with any chess players. So obviously it was a new challenge for you also. So but for people looking from outside, chess looks like you just sit there and you do some calculations, the layman language, if I would say. But we all know it's a very technically, like, the game is played a lot inside the head. So talk us about how challenging or how interesting it was for you to go get inside the mind of a chess player.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, that, and you're right. The mental work I'm doing with the chess players directly on the primary performance tool, which is the brain, where I'm working with the batsman. The primary performance is the body and hitting cricket balls. Um, but interestingly, the work was very, very similar, and I guess it's sort of testimony is borne out the fact that I worked in the hockey team, but I've never hit a hockey ball in my life, and I worked with a chess player, and I don't know anything about chess. But a lot of it is about helping the individual, as opposed to it's not so much about the team, but it's an individual. What do you need in order to stay fully focused to deliver on your skill over and over? And one of the biggest things of that is about identifying what are the things that distract you. How do you become distracted from focusing on what you need to focus on? So whether it's a chess player or a hockey player or a cricketer, they all know how to focus and they know what they need to focus on. The problem is not the focus. The problem is the distractions that take their focus away. And a great example of that is last night in the end of the 14th game, where just for one moment, Ding's attention was diverted from the chessboard, and he ended up making a move that cost him the world title and handed it over to Gukesh. So it's about identifying what are my distractions and how do I identify it as quickly as possible and come back to focus as soon as possible so that it isn't a consequential period where I'm distracted.
Right. And about the mistake you mentioned, so there has been a lot of chatter about the fact that okay, it was one mistake, which Gukesh capitalized on, or Lorraine made that mistake, the game was heading nowhere. But in my understanding, I think that's how sports work. Where one party make mistake, the other party is strong enough to capitalize on it. Or even that match was going towards a dead end, but Gukesh kept pushing through. He was not resigning.
Yes,
He didn't go for a draw. So talk us about those kind of moments when you know that your opponent has, because from Gukesh's reaction, it looked like that he didn't he realized it a bit tad bit later that okay, there is a huge mistake that Lorraine has made.
yes. Yeah, so you're quite right. It wasn't just something that happened in that moment. So it was a build up to that moment over 14 games, in that Gukesh knew he was slightly better prepared. He was mentally and physically in a better space. Liren wasn't in a great space. So part of the strategy was Gukesh took Ding really deep into previous games. And he some games he could have had the draw, but he dragged the game out for another hour and a half. And that was about putting pressure on Ding, having him sitting in the chair for longer, keep him thinking, keep draining him, keep putting pressure on him, keep tiring him out, because Gukesh knew he had more vitality, he had more energy in going into the last two games. I spoke to Gukesh after game 12, and I was never going to come here. But after speaking to him, I realized Gukesh is going into game 13 and 14. They're massive games, but he's going in with a great attitude. He's got good energy. He's fresh, and Ding is holding on. He's not, physically and mentally in as good a space. And Gukesh is also someone who is great with a high pressure moment. He's a genuine big match temperament player. And, Gukesh wasn't necessarily pushing Ding to make a mistake yesterday. He was just making sure he kept him at the chessboard as long as he could to tire him out in case they arrived today, what would have been today, in the sudden death that. So it was all part of a slowly, slowly, slowly use every single opportunity to put pressure on his opponent to set up that one moment where he might crack.
Right.
And so it took a long time for Gukesh to get to the place where he got almost helped Ding or created opportunity for Ding to make the mistake, and Gukesh was fresh enough to be able to capitalize on it.
Right. And when you speak about this decision making, I think that is one of the most important aspect you work on, right? Decision making in crunch situations, right? So I understand, and you have worked with, team sports also, like cricket, hockey, you have worked with, and then now there is chess and other individual sports. So this decision making bit, when you talk to players about it, like, is it different in the team game and individual sport, or is it the similar? It's about just about the individual.
No, it's not so much the team sport or individual sport. Sometimes there's a balance between making a decision
Yeah.
in the thinking brain and relying on the instinctive brain. And it's a case of what is the balance between those two. And generally, the thinking brain is much slower to react than what the instinctive brain is. And it's helping athletes to, more often than not, to not be thinking and to trust their instinct, trust their preparation. Now, in chess, where chess is a bit different because there is so much time compared to a batsman batting in a ball coming at them at 140 kilometers an hour over 20 meters. There is no time to think. With chess, there is time to think, but you can overthink and chew
Mhm.
up too much time, which we've seen Gukesh do in the past. He's aware that's something where he puts pressure on himself. We saw Ding putting a lot of pressure on himself by thinking so much. You one chewing up the time, but you're chewing up a whole lot of mental energy. And I think that's one of the things that Ding found himself under real pressure at the end in that end game yesterday, that he probably just took too much time thinking when he should have trusted his intuition and what he saw on the board and gone with that. So it's finding the balance, and chess is unique in that, because you do need to think a few moves deep. But if you overthink, you put yourself under time pressure. And we know someone, the best chess player in the world, in Magnus Carlsen. He's someone who trusts his intuition, thinks less, and reacts a little bit quicker compared to most other chess players in the world. And what it's done is that's the modus operandi of the number one in the world. So it suggests that there is a fine line between thinking and instinct.
Right. And what was your reaction when that move happened? Because we were close to, filing our reports that okay, this is again going to be a draw because that's how it was looking. But like when that happened, what was your reaction? Where were you like at that time?
If I were if I were to be honest, I was sitting in the VIP section, sort of 2 seats away from Gukesh on my side of the glass. But to be honest, my reaction was panic because
Ah,
I saw the energy change. I saw something in Gukesh's face, and although there needs to be silence in the viewing area, I heard a collective gasp, and I knew
yeah,
something had happened. But I
yeah.
don't know chess well enough to know what had happened. So I was like looking around, desperate. You're not allowed to talk, but I had to say to someone, "What's happened? What's happened?" I'm like, I know something's happened, but I don't know the game well enough. So I was panicking until someone said, "Things made the mistake, and Gukesh has got him." And then I went from panic to exuberance.
So tell me one thing. Like, I mean, you are the mental trainer. You are the one who asks boys, okay, keep calm, okay, trust your instinct, and don't overthink. But as a mental trainer, when your boys or whoever you have worked with is out there, what is your like? How calm are you, or how tough is it for you to watch them sometimes making mistake or sometimes capitalizing on those mistakes?
I'm quite good at staying calm, or I'm quite good at appearing to be calm. It's something obviously that I've worked on. That I can be calm during the process, and quite neutral, even if they're under pressure. Because I know Gukesh has got a strategy for he's under pressure. Um, but I think as I've gone on, what I've done is I've given myself more and more permission to allow myself to be emotional once the result has arrived. So, I know I've won games before where my facial expression doesn't change, or I say won games, I've been involved in teams. But if I were to go back to like when the hockey team beat Great Britain in that famous game. I mean, it was one of the greatest, I think, sporting events I've ever been part of. And I couldn't, no matter how hard I try, I could not hold my tears back, just tears of sheer joy. And I cried openly. It was just too big a moment. And, last night when I hugged Gukesh, it was impossible not to cry tears of joy and emotion for him.
And I think yesterday was the first time I saw Gukesh behave like a 18-year-old when he started crying after knowing that he has won. Because that man, we call him Iceman here in India, because that man has been like displayed immaculate maturity to say the least.
Yes, you can say he behaved like an 18-year-old. I would say I've watched Roger Federer get the number one Wimbledon and I watched him cry. I've watched the best athletes in the world win
Yeah.
Olympic gold and they cry. So what you didn't see an 18-year-old cry, you saw him behave like a world champions.
World
World
champ.
champions, when they put so much in, they cry. Those are tears of a world champion, not an 18-year-old.
Right, absolutely. And so, like, you have a good relation with India. People are very, I mean, yesterday the social media reaction was that we should get Paddy here and ask him to shift to India and work with all our sports. But honestly, what next for you in India? I know you keep working regularly, but anything major you are planning to be part of next year? Anything you are looking at?
There's nothing concrete at the moment. I've had one or two conversations with, one or two IPL teams, but nothing's concrete. I may well, before World Cups and the next Olympics, do some stuff with the hockey team. But at the moment, no, I'm just, here in Singapore, basking in this moment with Gukesh, and I'll think about the future, in the next couple of days.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paddy, for your time. We'll stay in touch.
Awesome,
Thank you so much for talking. Have a
awesome,
fun time there. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you so much.